Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Friday, December the 18th. Today is Friday, December the 25th, 2020, and I want to be updating you on news around the world, around Canada, and I'm going to be updating you on that today. So it will be covering all around Canada pretty much, and we're going to be talking about how Canada's news is really important. So first, the Canada news. First, we're gonna be moving on to uh, the residents in Quebec. Um, so nearly 100 homes affected on Christmas Day as water levels rise on Manitowoc River. Uh, the river water levels are very high and they're going to keep rising, he said. We strongly encourage people to leave their homes and reach out to the Red Cross if needed. So there is high water rise in across Quebec and across eastern Canada. So people they need to be evacuated when it comes to the water and the water levels, and it's very important to that in that point that the water levels will be high in that kind of point of view. So it's very important that we have to make sure that we celebrate Christmas in different ways, right? And it's very important that we take that very seriously because today is a Christmas day, but I still encourage everybody to do their best by protecting their health, by following the health guidelines. That was really important. Um, so shipment of Moderna COVID-19 vaccine arrives in Canada one day after approval. Shipments contain a portion of 1,600 1,068,000 doses expected by the month end. The first shipment carries doses of Moderna COVID-19 vaccine has arrived in Canada. The shipments contains a portion of 1,068,000 doses expected to arrive before the end of the year. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted along with the photo of FedEx plane being underloaded. The plane touched down Thursday at Toronto Pearson International Airport just over 24 hours after Health Canada authorized the vaccine for use in people over the age of 18. This is another big step in our national vaccine rollout, Trudeau said, but it does not mean we can let up just yet. The vaccine won't help you if you get sick. Doses of Moderna vaccine are expected to arrive in the territories by December the 28th. The military commander leading vaccination, uh, Danny Fortin, said Wednesday. Trudeau said Wednesday that Canada is on track to receive 1.2 million doses of both Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna by the end of January 2021. Canada has secured contracts with Pfizer BioNTech for access to 20 million doses and with Moderna for 40 million doses and expected to be able to vaccinate everyone living in Canada by September 2021. Other news that are happening across Canada. Um, Queen Elizabeth's annual Christmas message looks back on a year in which the coronavirus pandemic cast a spell over the world, but brought out the incredible spirit of those who rose to the challenge. In her address broadcast Friday, the 94-year-old monarch acknowledged the difficult and unpredicted times. For many, this time of year will be a thing with sadness, some mourning the loss of those dear to them, and others missing friends and family members at distancing for safety. When all they really want for Christmas is simply a hug or a squeeze of hand, she said. If you are among them, you are not alone, and let me assure you of my thoughts and prayers. With infection rates soaring in the recent weeks and many hospitals near in their capacities, the British government on December 19th canceled Christmas gathering and festival shopping for millions in bid to control the spread of coronavirus. The United Kingdom has reported well over 2 million cases of coronavirus since the pandemic began and topped 70,000 deaths on Friday for the second highest death toll in Europe behind Italy. Worldwide, the numbers of reported cases was nearly 80 million, with more than 1.7 million deaths. While acknowledged the hardship experienced by many, the Queen devoted much of her address to celebrating the actions of those who have stepped up to provide help. Remarkable, a year that has necessarily kept people apart has in many ways brought us closer across the Commonwealth. My family and I have been inspired by stories of people volunteering in their communities, helping those in need, she said. In the United Kingdom and around the world, people have risen magnificent to the challenge of the year, and I'm so proud and moved by this quite incredible spirit. So this is the Queen of Elizabeth, and she sent her message today for Canadians and for the British people. And that's a message that she decided to send, and that took time, but that's what really the British message was all about. Is about these kind of things. Um, Canada cybersecurity unite in encouraging in urging Canadians users of Solar Windows Onion software to investigate whether their systems have been com- uh, Frost in the far-reaching hack revealed earlier this month. The Canadian Centre for Cyber Security said in an alert released Thursday it believed that government agency and variety of organizations in Canada and abroad may be affected by the hack, which was carried out by a highly sophisticated threat actor. The Centre, which is a unit of communication security establishment, one of Canada's key security and intelligence organization, did not specifically which organization or government entities may have been affected by the hack. Last week, Shared Service Canada, which managed much of the government IT infrastructure, told CBC News it had no in the action. Its infrastructure had been compressed. The Department of the National Defense said it did not use the affected platform. In its alert, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity said it has been working within the community to identify affected systems and notified Canadian system owners where possible. The impact on these compressed systems remains under identified by analysts is going. The U.S. authorities, including Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, has blamed the attack in which several U.S. government departments and agencies were breached on Russia actors. The Russian government denies involvement, and President Donald Trump contracted Pompeo last week by suggesting China may be culpable. The attack is believed to have started in the spring and used a network monitoring software platform called Iron, created by a firm SolarWind. By compressing the platform, the attackers were able to insert malware into the system of SolarWinds. SolarWinds has said approximately 18,000 clients may be affected globally. The SolarWinds vulnerability and associated compress are far-reaching, and it is important that organizations perform through analysis of their networks to ensure they are not compressed diseases, they said the alert. The alert goes on to outline technical details of how to identify the magnet system, which may be compressed by the hack. So this is cybersecurity attack that happened in Canada, and that's the most devastating thing that we heard from Canada, right? Now we're gonna move on to the explosion that had happened in Hamilton. today, and there was a huge explosion that happened, and it's huge and it's really so. Fire crews were called to Arok Meter after reported an explosion in an area. No injuries have been reported after a large explosion at the steel factory in Hamilton Friday morning, according to Hamilton police. Large cloud of brown smoke were seen coming from Hamilton waterfront industrial zone. Shortly after 11 o'clock a.m., Hamilton fire crew said they were called to 300 Wilcus Street, north of Burlington Street, for a fire in a building belonging a steel production company, according to Hamilton Fire. Hamilton Fire and police officials initially said the blast took place at Steelco Hamilton workers. In a fact, that blast took place in Arauco, Danafiso. At approximately 11:10 a.m., a slap pit eruption occurred at a No. 4 blast. Thankfully, there were no injuries. However, the event caused a significant air emissions. Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks have been alerted, the statement reads. Other residents from Hamilton, Stony Creek, and Burlington reported hearing the blast, some saying it sounds like a bomb going off. Hamilton Police Acting Staff Jason Lick says all employees are accounted for. There was no residential fire or danger that we're aware of right now, and no roads are closed, he added. Hamilton Fire and Hamilton Police have since cleared the scene. We saw a massive explosion which was followed by the rolling smoke and a big, huge puff of smoke. Peel told CBC News initially we thought it was a fireworks. Within seconds, we looked out and saw that it was actually coming from the factories. We just immediately went home because we didn't know it was safe or not, she said. We were smelling something unusual, something like sulfur, and we had our 5-year-old with us, and he kept asking me if it was dangerous, and I kept telling him not to worry, but it was quite jarring. So this is really what happened today in Hamilton, and it's really huge and really devastating when you see uh, these kind of things that happen across Canada. It's very huge and very devastating. The factories are really um, bleeding out, and it's not huge, right? Um, so I'm gonna go to world now, and we are here with the Nashville. There's another explosion that happened in Nashville today, and it's also devastating uh, thing that happened. So FBI investigating after a suspicious blast wound in three in downtown Nashville. Mayor initially nighttime crew following explosion that left three injured spark communication outages. At a press conference Friday night, Nashville Mayor John Cooper said authorities believe that explosion was caused by a deliberate bomb. Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake said police were responding to a report of shot fired when they encountered a recreational vehicle blaring a recording that said a potential bomb was to detonate in 15 minutes. Police evacuated nearly buildings and called in the bomb squad shortly after the RV exploded, Drake said. This morning attack on our community was intended to create chaz and fear in the season of peace and hope, but Nashville's have been proven time and time again that the spirit of our city cannot be broken, Cooper said. Police said they don't yet know the motive or target, and Drake noted that the officials had not received any threats before the explosion. Three people taken to an area hospital for treatment were in stable condition Friday evening, Cooper said. Authorities have found what they believe to be human remains in the victims of the explosion site, the chief of the state police told reporters Friday evening. It's unclear how the remains are related to the Friday explosion or whether they might belong to the person believed to be responsible or a victim. The officials could not discuss any ongoing investigation public and spoke to the AP on condition of autonomy. Mayor Cooper declared a state of emergency on Friday evening. Part of the city will be placed under a nighttime curfew starting at 4:30 p.m. Friday and ending Sunday. The blast sent black smoke and flames spilling from the heart of downtown Nashville tourist scene, an area packed with Tong's restaurants and shop buildings shook streets over from the explosion near a building owned by AT&T, which is 1 block away from the company office tower. We don't know if that was a uh, deliberate or if it was intention, police spokesperson Don said. The Federal Aviation Minister temporarily flight out of Nashville International Airport because of telecommunication issues associated with the explosion. Some police agency reported that their 911 system went down due to the AT&T outage. The FBI will be taking the lead in the investigation, said spokesperson. The FBI said the primarily law enforcement agency responsible for investigating federal crimes such as explosive uh, volcanoes and acts of terrorism. Federal investigation from the Bureau, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosions were also on the scene. Uh, All my windows, every single one of them, got blown into the next room. If I had been standing there, it would have been horrible, he told the Associated Press. It felt like a bomb. It was that big. There were about 4 cars on fire. I don't know if it was so hot. They just caught on fire and the trees were all blown apart. U.S. U.S. Justice Department said Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen was also briefed and directed all department resources be made available to help with the investigation. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee said on Twitter that the state would provide the resources necessary to determine what happened and who was responsible. The American Red Cross of Tennessee announced that it was working with the officials to open a shelter for victims. U.S. President Donald Trump had been briefed about the situation, according to the White House spokesperson. He said Trump, who is spending the holidays in Florida, will continue to receive regular updates. So these are the attacks that were going on in Florida and across the country, and it's really devastating when you see that kind of explosions in Canada, right? It's very devastating, right? To see that kind of thing. Um, I'm gonna be reading the numbers in Canada now. The numbers of COVID-19 cases. So Canada has 53,005,243 cases in Canada. Alberta has 94,881 cases, 890 deaths. British Columbia has 48,609 cases, 808 deaths. Manitoba has 23,624 cases, 617 deaths. New Brunswick has 587 cases, 8 deaths. Newfoundland and Labrador has 384 cases, 4 deaths. Nova Scotia has 1,465 cases, 65 deaths. Ontario has 16,005,110 cases, 4,278 cases, 4,278 deaths. Prince Edward Island has 94 cases, 0 deaths. Quebec has 18,005,872 cases, 7,913 deaths. Saskatchewan has 14,225 cases, 134 deaths. Northwest Territories has 24 cases, 0 deaths. Nunavut has 265 cases, 2 deaths. And Yukon has 60 cases and 1 death total. Daily death total Canada today confirmed yesterday to zero in Canada, zero in Alberta, British Columbia, and pretty much the rest of Canada is all under zero cases. Um, Cases and regular regionally test. Canada has 13 million, uh, 13 billion, uh, 34,003,345 that got tested. Alberta has 1,005,407, 298 that got tested. British Columbia has 9,000,000 29,744 that got tested. Manitoba has 39,009,378 that got tested. New Brunswick has 11,003,276 that got tested. Newfoundland and Labrador has 71,012 that got tested. Nova Scotia has 17 million 1,951 that got tested. Ontario has 72 million 8,100 no 72 billion 1,009,051 that got tested. PEI has 77,149 that got tested. Quebec has 2,043,006,763 that got tested. Saskatchewan has 29,005,964 that got tested. Northwest Territory has 7,725 that got tested. Nunavut has 5,333 that got tested. And Yukon has 5,878 that got tested. So this is globally confirmed cases. Canada has 53,005,243 cases, 14,720 deaths. The United States has 18 um, 18 billion six 65,004,054 cases, 32,009,023 deaths. India has 10 million for 14 1,460 845 that got cases worldwide. So these are the cases that we have across Canada and across globally. This is the cases that we have in Canada. Now I'm going to be going back to Alberta and talk about Alberta quickly before we move on to anywhere else, right? So here is so again, other doctors and nurses think that we are specialists in respiration and life support. At the end of the day, this certainly is true. As intensive care doctors and nurses, we can push the body to extreme in an effort to help someone survive that cannot be accomplished anywhere else. We are the last line of defense between life and what lies beyond. The more I do this job, however, the more I feel that we are expect in human conditions. COVID-19 in the ICU has been a daily education in human condition for me. The Christmas week on the Unite during Alberta's second wave has been a crash course. The story of his night. Walking onto Unite just before 7 a.m., I found my colleague who had covered the night before looking a little delivered. The board lists the patients and their diagnosis summarize the story of his night. When patients arrive in the Unite with COVID-19, often they are awake and able to speak, albeit in short phrase in between gasps for breath. It is as if they had been running a marathon for their lives, and every breath might be their last. Watching a person die of COVID-19 is like watching a person drown in air. That's when we get involved. This is probably the most heart-reckoning time for us. Before we put the patient to sleep on life support, that is when the patient makes her final call to loved ones. through gasp I hear if I don't wake up from this, always remember I love you. We admitted rich and poor with COVID 19, white, indigenous, black, brown, and every other color and background of Canadians. Regardless of their background, the conversation always seemed to end with some version of that. It reminds me how much we are all the same despite our spiritual differences. I've been doing this job now for 5 years and have seen my share of grief and despair. We consider ourselves to be very resilient and strong people. You cannot do this job if you aren't. Despite that, my eyes always flood a little hearing these conversations. What makes COVID 19 so different that I can't see my parents, my siblings, or friends in every patient I've brought through the days of ETRIC. We typically have two intensive care doctors to take care of our regular unit of 24 patients. On regular pre-pandemic day, half our unit would be ventilated patients. We are now approaching 40 patients, and most of them have COVID 19. Once they come in, they tend to stay for what seems to be like interning. We now have four intensive care physicians present. We have three nurses practitioners working continuously. Help has been from outside. Nurses and ichthyologists have been redeployed from other units. Some have volunteered to give up their holidays with their families to help us. Words like called up and contagious make me feel like we are running combat mission more